Hey, welcome to session 6 of Winning in the Workplace. This session is all about how to interview like a rock star. And man, we want to jump right into this today and get into helping you with these very specific, very practical tools on knowing how to dominate, not just be better than, but to dominate the competition when it comes to interviewing for any job. All right, so let's dive into this today. First of all, a stat that I want to put here on the board, which I found to be very interesting. Okay, here we go. 33%. 33% of bosses know within 90 seconds whether or not they're going to hire you. Have you guys ever heard that expression before? You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Okay? So the importance of us, or just knowing, having an understanding and being aware of, it's going to be important for me to come off really well in the first 90 seconds. Now again, I remember being a student, I remember going, well, that's not fair. It's kind of judging me. Man, you know, give me a little time, you got to get to know me. And again, if you remember from other talks, I was quite the little personality manipulator, you know. So I could, if you give me time, I could kind of bend people's opinion about me. But man, 90 seconds, 33%. Now again, this is just every 3 out of 10, okay? But it's just to let us know that first impressions are very important. Now, I want to start there because that has to be the foundation of everything that we're talking about today, is how to make a great impression. So everybody, let's say that together, okay? How to make a good impression. There we go, everybody together. How to make a good impression. And we need to make a good impression in a short amount of time with folks, especially if there is high competition for a certain position at a company. So what we're going to be going over today and what we're going to go through is simply how to make a great impression. And when to make a great impression. What do I need to say? What do I need to wear? How does all of that stuff work? So I can come across as being a star employee, someone of high quality, Ruben. That's what we're looking for, somebody of high quality. Now again, get a picture in your head, all right? Get a picture in your head. You too on the camera. Get a picture in your head of a person, of an employee of low quality. Let's go ahead and get that picture in your head. Might be a boy, might be a girl, doesn't matter. You just get a picture in the head. Pay attention to specific qualities. It's like it's an immediate snapshot. Bam! It's right there in front of you. And what I want you to do is take a moment just really quick on a piece of paper. There's not space there, but I just want you to write down, what do you see? They're not saying anything out of their mouth. They're just standing there. What do you see? And again, this is a person that is giving you a poor first impression. The reason why I want you to do this is because this is not rocket science. It's not like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. There are some things that we can grab hold of that are very common sense if we take a moment to think about it. Now, there are going to be some other things, some little tricks that I want to give you today that I think are going to be quite helpful. Okay, so Jessica, what was one thing that you came up with?
Kind of dirty looking.
Ooh, kind of dirty, yeah, the old hygiene thing. Kayla, how about you?
Kind of looking around and just kind of being like, wow.
Very good, no eye contact, just kind of looking around a lot.
Kind of chilling.
Yeah, good. Ruben, how about you?
I put probably like sitting down, like it's the high endurance area. If he's just like sitting down on his phone or something.
Okay, ooh, very good. Somebody's sitting down on their phone when you're thinking they probably should be up, ready to go. So these are great. Again, the reason why I bring these up is because I don't think it's rocket science. I don't think it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to make a good impression. I think we do. It's just unfortunate, number one, we forget to think about it. And number two, we don't necessarily think about what the impression needs to be. Okay? I don't think we consider what the impression needs to be. So we're going to dive into this today. I've got some pictures here, just some examples, so we can know what we're talking about. When I say rock star interview, how to be a rock star employee, I'm not talking about a Michael Jackson, okay? These people here in the top pictures, they're scary. All right? They're a little frightening. They come across, yes, they are extremely famous. They are extremely successful, okay? However, if they came in to work at my company, I would probably not be interested in hiring them, okay? Because the top pictures, the top 3 here, these are pictures of people that are very focused on their personal self-expression. Okay? Whereas the pictures on the bottom are more focused on having an impression on people that is going to draw them to you. Draw people to you. So you can see Sting, love these pictures here. Little Taylor Swift, okay? So do we want to be an Ozzy Osbourne, or do we want to be the rock star Ozzy Osbourne in an interview, or do we want to be more of a Taylor Swift? Now again, it might depend on the job as well, the type of position you're looking for. But you must keep in mind that the employer is not interested, Jess, the employer is not interested in your self-expression. The employer is going to be looking for, can you represent my company the way that I want my company to be represented to the public? That's the key question. So again, depending upon the type of job that you're looking for, and you're thinking about that first impression, you need to be considering, what kind of impression does this company want to make on the community? And am I able to do that? Fair enough? Guys okay with that? Good deal. So, let's see. Yeah, I want to make sure that I'm writing. Okay, we're going to cut this piece out here. How can I best represent? Okay. We want to ask the question, how can I best represent you? As opposed to, how can I best represent myself? Oh, this is me. I want to give off the impression that I've got all these thoughts and all these qualities and everything like that. If those qualities don't line up with the company's qualities, their core values, then it's going to be hard for you to get a job. It's going to be hard for you to fit into that company. So let's go ahead and dive into this. When does the interview begin? This is a great question as well, Michaela. When does the interview begin? Because I want you to know the interview doesn't begin when you show up for a scheduled time with an interviewer. The interview begins a long time before that. The interview begins as soon as you get in a place of connection with an adult who has a job. Okay? Adults who have jobs are doorkeepers for you. Whether they own their own company or whether they are simply a worker in another company, they are doorkeepers for you. So what this means, Reuben, is I'm like constantly giving impressions. I'm constantly giving people an opportunity to interpret who I am. Now again, I don't want this to come across as I hate self-expression. I love self-expression. I am all about self-expression. But when it comes to getting a specific job to help me move forward in my life, to fulfill my why, sometimes I have to put my self-expression over here on the shelf for a little bit so that I can represent the company. Is that fair enough? Because if I can't, then it doesn't mean that you don't ever get a job. It just means that you limit the jobs that you get. You can really limit. And if you're okay with that, then that's cool. But if you're wanting to move up the ladder, if you're wanting to become financially free, if you're wanting to become financially successful, then you may need to be considering more and more, how can I best represent this company? Before the interview, there may be an application or a resume that you turn in. There may be a phone call that you make to set up an appointment. Also, it's not uncommon at all to be introduced to a certain employer. All right, have you guys ever been introduced to a potential employer, just kind of out and about, maybe at church or in the neighborhood or something like that, where somebody has introduced you to somebody? Those are all opportunities for you to make the first impression with a company or with an employer. Love this picture here of Napoleon Dynamite, all right? You never get a second chance to make a first impression. I was just like many other people that went to see this movie. You guys seen this movie? Okay. All right, good deal. All right, this was hilarious. Of course, the first time I watched it, I didn't get it. All right, I had to watch it several times, and then I started cracking up. I really saw the value in it. But the first time I saw it was kind of tough. But I was among several other people, many other people, that spent up to $46 million to go watch this movie. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. However, if the character of Napoleon Dynamite came into my store and wanted a job, 90 seconds. I could probably even do it quicker than 90 seconds and go, yeah, this person isn't going to work. Okay? Because of the first impression that you're getting. It's interesting here that John Heder, you can see a picture on the left versus the picture on the right. He has the ability to come across looking really good. I understand that he was playing a character with Napoleon Dynamite. But how many people have you known that it's possible for them to look really sharp or not so sharp? You better know what I'm talking about there. So there's an opportunity. If, depending upon the choices that I make, I can come across as having a great first impression, or I can come across as, oh, this is just kind of how I feel. It's just kind of how I am today. All right? Again, it doesn't mean that that's wrong. Self-expression is not wrong. I just want you to know that when you are talking with an employer, whether it be at an hourly job that you're getting, or whether you move into the next job and you begin to get a salary job, your ability to represent the company is going to be a primary focus of that person that's looking at you. So, you are always giving a first impression. Now, Ruben's over here going, oh my gosh, are you kidding? Just want everybody to relax and slow down. I don't want to be thinking about the first impression all the time. And again, that is just fine. It doesn't make you a bad person, doesn't make you a wrong person. You just need to understand that you're always giving a first impression to somebody. Always. I remember with my employees, they were amazed when they finally figured out that they were always being evaluated. It wasn't just a one time every 3 months or one time every 6 months where we'd sit down and look at a piece of paper and do an evaluation. They were being evaluated constantly. Every time I saw them, whether it was in the job or out of the job, when I would bump into them, when I would see them, they were constantly being evaluated. Because it's all about being able to represent a company, not just being able to represent yourself. Okay, I just think that's a key point that we need to get as we start out here. So again, this whole self-expression thing, you guys, let me give you a story. Self-expression for me. There was a time where I was in a season of my life where I wanted to self-express. All right? So I know this may be hard to realize here, but I had a long ponytail. All right? Down about, probably about the top of my shoulder blades. So it was down on my back. I love that. All the same length. So I always had it pulled back in a tight ponytail. The whole Steven Seagal thing, you know. Always had the ponytail. Also, had a little dangly earring going on. And had the goatee happening. I mean, I was rocking it. And I just loved it. I would look in the mirror and I'd go, yeah, that's me. And I loved it. Unfortunately, my self-expression did not fit into the job that I had of being an elementary school teacher in a small Christian school. You know, it just didn't fit. And so what I got out of that was fired. Clay, we just don't seem to have a position for you next year, you know. But again, I look back at it. At the time I was going, oh, what do you mean? I was all upset and everything about it. But of course now I look back at it and I'm going, well, duh. Impressionable young kids, they didn't need some guy who was angry, all right, because I was in that phase of my life. I was very angry, I had the long hair, had the earring, had the thing going on, and they were just going, yeah, you're just not the best fit here in the job, okay? So again, self-expression is fine. At that point, I just needed to have a separation between what I was doing over here out of the job and what I was doing here in the job. So when you do have this opportunity to show a potential employer that you can represent their company, ta-da! You're in a great spot. So let's talk about some of those different places where you have an opportunity to show these first impressions. Because again, I want you to know it doesn't start when you walk in for the interview. It's going on all the time. So first of all, hey, I guess we're blue now. I always love this. I'm going to go back to green. Where do I show first impression? Well, I'll let you know you guys are getting ready to start up school. That is a great place. You can have a first impression with your teacher. Again, being a school teacher for 15 years, I'll let you know your school teachers are, if they don't already have an opinion about you, okay, because they've been in the teacher's lounge talking about you, then as soon as you walk into the classroom, they will form an opinion about who you are. And then as the days go on, it'll either be strengthened or they'll go, oh, maybe I need to change my opinion. But school, with your teachers, with your coaches, is a great place to have these first impressions. Another great place to do this, if you go to church. Anytime you are interacting with adults at church, how you're representing yourself, how you are showing yourself, how you are speaking to others, how you are dressing. My daughter had a boyfriend, all right? Emphasis on had a boyfriend. My daughter had a boyfriend. Great kid. Great kid. He went to our church. He was at school. He was an athlete. He presented himself really well. Didn't have any problem with that at all. Timing was just off for my daughter. All right, she's a junior in or a sophomore at that point. Where are you going with this thing? But he represented himself really well. So as a dad, you always hear the stories of the dad with the daughter and he's cleaning the gun, you know, and the whole thing. I was comfortable. I was very comfortable with him. I knew his family. I knew him. I was very comfortable with him because of the way that he represented himself. Okay, another spot where we can often do this is when you go out for dinner. Have you guys ever been out to dinner with parents or out to dinner with an adult, and next thing you know, your parents are introducing you to somebody? You guys been in that spot before? It's a great opportunity for you to have a great first impression. I was just at a baseball game on Wednesday night. My daughter, my wife, we went with a bunch of people at the bank where we go. It was a big bank function. And I knew that there was going to be a whole bunch of people there that I wanted to introduce my daughter to. And it was going to be a great opportunity. Again, can you just imagine being my daughter, okay? But I knew it was going to be a great time to train her and teach her how to have the first impression. So the very first person that I wanted her to meet was the bank president. Well, actually, it was the person that owned the bank. It was the CEO. It was the big guy, the big head cheese. I said, okay, Claire, here's what you want to do. You want to walk up, you want to introduce yourself, you want to make the eye contact, you do the handshake, everything we're going to talk about today, and you want to ask this question. So go do it. And she's going, Dad, she's got like 3 of her friends there. She's going, I don't want to do that. Dad, that's uncomfortable. Dad, going, hon, you need to do this. This is important for you to learn how to represent yourself and how to be confident in introducing yourself. Eventually she did it. She introduced each one of her friends. She also had about a 3-4 minute conversation. The bank CEO came to me, the bank owner came to me later and said, man, I had a chance to meet your daughter a little bit ago. Man, she's really sharp. Bam! That was exactly the impression that I wanted my daughter to have. Does that make sense? The guy is an owner of a bank. Okay, so let's just kind of unpack that a little. He's the owner of a bank. So he himself has a bunch of positions to fill, correct? Okay, he himself could do that. However, he has access to hundreds, even thousands of customers that come to his bank to do business. He's got access to all of them. All it takes is one phone call. Hey, my daughter's looking for a job. Anybody you'd recommend? He's going to go right back to that impression of her. Yeah, there are a few people that I would recommend. Does that make sense? So helping her open those doors. So when you're introduced to adults with jobs, when you go out to dinner with your parents and you meet adults with jobs, be very aware of your social media. Okay, whether it be, I don't know if you guys do Facebook or Instagram or whatever. I mean, they're just coming out with new ones all the time. Just be aware of that, because social media, as you probably know, is more and more being used in the interviewing process. So just kind of what you are representing out there with other people. When you go to a community event and interact with adults with jobs, these are key. Oh man, how about this? When you are filling out, I was just this morning, and so I put this on here, on an application. I was just speaking with a client, okay, a client of mine down in South Texas, okay, way down there by the border. And she was talking to me about her struggles with interviewing people. And she said this morning, I just want you guys to know this, came out of her mouth. This is an employer that hires a bunch of employees. She said, Clay, I know immediately when I look at an application whether or not I want to hire somebody. I don't even have to read anything. I just have to look at the application. What do you think she's looking at? Handwriting. Handwriting. If you can't write legibly, then you're not going to be able to communicate in the office. You're not going to be able to answer the phone, take a note for the CEO or for somebody, and they're not going to be able to read it. So you're not a good candidate. So when you're filling out your application, it's got to be neat. It's got to be legible. Well, Clay, I just don't write very good. Okay, number one, either learn how to write or type it out. Okay? But it's got to be legible, because if it's not, you'll go out really quick. This is a great opportunity for you to have a first impression before you have even gone in for the interview. Then finally, in short here, whenever you have an opportunity to be outside of your house interacting with adults with jobs, this is when you have a time to make a first impression, a positive first impression. All of these adults are potential doorkeepers for you. They're gatekeepers. They can increase, they can expand your future if you make a good impression. If you make a poor impression, okay, which I'm sure each of you guys have friends, you have people that you know, when you think of their face probably coming into your head right now, not a good first impression, okay? I'll let you know, this isn't just for 16, 17, and 18-year-olds. I had a guy come into my office just last week interviewing for a job, a professional job, okay? White collar, the whole thing, a sales job. He came in. He is older than me, okay? That's old. He's older than me. He was looking for a job. I was going, yeah, I think this could work really good. I had always thought that he represented himself really well, and I was going, this could be really cool. All right? He's a guy that I'd known for a long time. He came in to interview with me. He was in a pair of shorts. Immediately, even with a guy that old, he came in a pair of shorts. I went, nope, not going to work. Then the more we got to talking, the more, that's not going to work, it's not going to work, it's not going to work. But he came in a pair of shorts, first impressions. Even though I'd known the guy for a long time, I hadn't known him in this context as far as hiring him to do a job. So my first impression as far as being able to hire him was a negative impression for him.